Whew, man. So it's late night here. I just watched the latest episode of The Rings of Power, season 7. So this is the one we've been waiting for. Everyone's been waiting. Where's the action been? Where's the wars? Where's these big Lord of the Rings scale battles? Well, we finally get it here in this episode, sort of. But, this is it. It's the Battle of Eregion. We got the orc armies marching there, launching their catapults, all of this. Eregion is under siege and they're doing very little to fight back and they're waiting for aid, blah, 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 the usual thing, kind of dynamics of a Lord of the Rings battle. It was horrendous. I mean, where do I even start? Everything about this show feels cheap, and which is insane when it's the most expensive TV show of all time by far. I don't understand how they do this. Like, okay, some of the CGI shots, like the long distance ones where you see the wide shots where you see the whole city or the orcs, they look good, they look fine. But when I say it looks cheap, it's when they get into those close-ups of the armies, or just even the wider shots where they're just trying to gain some scope for what the battle is. How many soldiers are we dealing with on the good side and the bad side? But they would do this like little things, like where the orcs are sort of marching on the castle, and there's so many gaps between them that you don't feel any sense of a massive army marching. It feels like very sparse and very spread out, like they're not that big of an army all at once. We didn't get really many shots of like what we used to see in Lord of the Rings films, where there's just thousands of them gathered marching all at once, where you could feel the magnitude of what was coming. Here they just feel so scattered and so like it's so ineffective. It doesn't you don't kind of gain any sort of idea of what the stakes are and what the threat is, because they just feel so scattered. And same for the good guys. So we have these shots of them on the wall where the archers are firing arrows down at the orcs, classic Lord of the Rings stuff, whatever. But for one, the wall felt very low. Like it didn't feel like a very high up sort of battlement for them to be on top of, to be shooting down. So it felt very small scale in that regard. And even then, the bowmen are spread out. There's not many soldiers on the wall at all, like firing back at them. But one of the scenes that absolutely blew my mind in a bad way was when finally Celebrimbor comes to his senses and marches down to the wall and meets with the young girl who's working with him, one of the masons or whatever, and is trying to explain how he's been deceived by Sauron and we need to kill him, destroy him, whatever. And she's just seeing him as a crazy man. And then Sauron or Anatar shows up and basically helps convey this craziness further to make him look even worse. And this whole scene, this conversation plays out on this battlement right in the heart of the battle. So they are on the front lines of the wall, firing down at the orcs, and the orcs firing back at them. And they're standing there on this wall having a conversation for what felt like 5 minutes. And they're not concerned at all for the orcs below. And the orcs don't seem to even see them. They're just standing there and trying to take them out. Like there are ladders being thrown up against this wall with orcs trying to get on top. So the battle is all around them, and they're just there having a conversation for 5 minutes about Sauron and about being deceived and just trying to prove he's not crazy. It's mind-boggling how bad that was. Like, I couldn't believe it. You think back to like just basic like dynamics of a battle. If you're in the middle of a war, you're not stopping to have that kind of a conversation then and there. If you're having it, you got to be really far removed from the battle. But they chose to put it right front and center. Like that you could have had that anywhere else in the whole of Eregion, and they chose to have it right on the front lines. It just took you out of the battle completely. It's like the people making the show have no idea what it happens in war. Not that I do have an idea, but I have some idea that you wouldn't be having a conversation for 5 minutes on the wall where arrows are flying past you the whole time. Like, it's ridiculous. So that really bothered me. I thought it was terrible. But on top of all that, on a kind of more broader level, everything about this battle was just so obviously trying to copy what the Lord of the Rings films did. The same exact dynamic. So you get the horn of the orcs marching, the catapults they're launching off at the castle, and then the bowmen, they're disoriented, but then they start to return fire. The orcs start to march, and then fighting breaks out, and then of course you get the riders riding in from the horizon, coming in. Now that's okay. if we had no kind of concept of the Lord of the Rings films, maybe I would think it was fine, but I felt like none of it felt earned. For one, Elrond was just only moments before far away. He was with Durin at Khazad-dûm, and then all of a sudden he's there at the castle with an army. Where did he amass this army from? I don't know. It's not explained, but this is a massive problem with the show, and it's been a problem throughout. The concept of time, distance, all of that is out the door. People arrive at places whenever they need to arrive for the sake of the story, and common sense be damned, But then and there, okay, they finally get this in. You can so see they're so badly wanting to have this like a Ride of the Rohirrim style scene where they clash through the orcs. And what do? They do maybe one of the stupidest things as well, where Galadriel is revealed by the orcs on those front lines, and they're charging right at her, and the horses stop. They stop right before the line of the orcs. And then it cuts to them back at the orc camp, and they're treating with the orcs, with Adar, the leader of them. Pacing, my God, what the hell is going on? Don't they understand? You're in the middle of a battle. You don't pull the pin on it like that to go then have a conversation about treating and making terms of battle and whatever, giving and taking. What are we doing? None of this makes any sense. And the pacing was just shocking throughout this whole episode. Everything. And if I get into the further details, just stupid things like the orcs used a catapult to knock down a mountain, to use the rubble of that mountain as a causeway for them to cross the river into Eregion. And then and they formed a whole battlefield. This remains of a mountain that the catapult had taken down. This is just stupid stuff. Who writes this? This is like a child writing a TV show about Lord of the Rings, and I think that's even disrespectful to children, if I'm being honest. But apart from that, just looking at my notes here, what else is willing to mention? There was obviously a big moment with a kiss between Galadriel and Elrond, which firstly is weird because they're technically cousins, distant cousins, but whatever. And why? They're not meant to get together at all. As far as my knowledge of from the appendices and that, there's nothing like that. So I don't know why they had a kiss. And there was no build up to this kiss. Their relationship has been very brother-sisterly throughout this show. There's never been any hint of tension or romance between them, or even the fact that him wanting to save Galadriel is out of a love of passion. It's more of just a love for a friend. But then all of a sudden he kisses her. Makes no sense. But this show makes no sense. This is possibly the worst episode of the show so far. Whilst you could say it's a more entertaining one simply because we weren't being stuck constantly with mindless conversations. There were a few, don't get me wrong, but at least we had some action. As stupid as a lot of it was, at least it was there. So in some sense, I could say if there's anything that they should be able to nail with the show, it just should be the action, because they clearly don't know what they're doing with the writing. They have no idea what to do with the characters or anything, the story, the plot. They have no sense of pacing, anything like that. But you've got so much money pumped to the show, at least get the action right. But it highlights really something, is that how hard it is to pull off, especially those battles that we saw in the Lord of the Rings films, how it makes you appreciate just how great they were and how they were able to pull them off. Not just as epic kind of battles, but also that they had stakes to them. There was a moment where the battle was going on and you could see a wide shot of Eregion. And I'm literally wondering, who here in Eregion do I care about the orcs killing? Who would I be worried for? I'm thinking Celebrimbor's an idiot. I don't care about him. Sauron's evil. There's no one else. There was no one within the walls of Eregion that I cared one single bit about. And that just is completely different to what we saw with the Lord of the Rings battles. Characters that we were heavily invested in and loved, and their lives are under threat, under siege from these battles, and you cared about what was going on. Here, there's not a single thing to latch onto with regards to emotion or feeling. And because they've done nothing with it, they just wanted so bad to have this battle, and they don't care what the stakes are or how they construct it to make it more meaningful, but they have no idea how to do that. So I could easily consider this the worst episode of The Rings of Power yet, simply because it should be the one that they get the most right, and they got it the most wrong, if you ask me. There's been worse episodes in the season just in terms of how bad the story plot was and how boring they were, but this one is where they should have at least thrived, and they completely blew it. So not that I had any faith in this show to like since the beginning, since season 1, but as it's gone on, it's got worse and worse. But this just really shows me the level of incompetence we're dealing with the makers of this show. They have no idea what they're doing, and it's really sad because you could have awesome potential with the show about the second age of Middle Earth, and they're completely blowing it. So yeah, possibly the worst episode of Lord of the Rings yet. Does have a big battle, so if you're in for that, maybe you'll enjoy some of it. But I didn't. I thought for the most part it was pretty bad. Really bad pacing of the action, the stakes, the scope of how many people are in the battle, soldiers, the to and fro of like who's winning, who's losing, really badly captured. No sense of any of that. So yeah, really, I give this a really bad review for this episode 7. Obviously, episode 8 next week is going to be a continuation of this battle. Most likely the dwarves are going to arrive, spoilers, but who cares? We'll see what happens there, but I have no more faith in it whatsoever. They've proven that they don't know how to do a big battle, which was kind of the last thing that they had to try and prove with this show, but they've blown it completely. So I have no faith in the second half of this battle being any better. So I'll still watch it and I'll let you know my thoughts when that comes. But yeah, that's my thought on this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and all of that. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.